Good evening, ZOLA MAJAVU, PSL prosecutor. This is a further DC update. I can confirm that earlier this morning, the PSL DC considered a misconduct case against KAIZER Chiefs Football Club, wherein they were charged with spectator misbehavior arising from a missile throwing incident. They pleaded guilty as charged, and having considered the deliberations both in aggravation and mitigation of sanction, the PSL DC ruled as follows. 1. KAIZER Chiefs Football Club was fined an amount of 100,000 rands, of which 50,000 is suspended for a period of 12 months on condition that during the period of suspension, they are not found guilty of the same offense. Sadly and unfortunately, in October last year, KAIZER Chiefs appeared before the PSL DC facing the same charges, in respect of which they were fined an amount of 200,000. 100,000 was suspended on condition that they do not reoffend for the duration of the period of suspension. Now that they have reoffended and been convicted accordingly, it means that the suspended 100,000 is triggered and payable immediately. In total, it means KAIZER Chiefs will pay an amount of 150,000 rand, plus the pro rata costs of today's sitting. The reason for the proration thereof is simply because they were charged on the same day and appeared on the same day with Orlando Pirates in front of the same DC. Moving to Orlando Pirates, I can also confirm that they too were charged with misconduct arising from a missile throwing incident by their spectators. They too pleaded guilty as charged, and they were fined an amount of 100,000 rands, of which 25,000 is suspended for 12 months on the same condition that they are not to reoffend during the period of suspension, which therefore means that because they too appeared before the PSL DC in November last year facing the same charges, where they were fined an amount of 100,000 rand, of which 50,000 was suspended. Now that they have reoffended and have been convicted as such, the 50,000 that was suspended is triggered and payable immediately. And in respect of the new offense, they were fined another 100,000, of which 25,000 is suspended and 75 payable immediately. In total, it means Orlando Pirates will have to pay 125,000 rands, together with half the portion of today's costs, which they will share with KAIZER Chiefs for the reasons I have explained earlier. The proration of the costs was an attempt by the prosecution to try and minimize the financial harshness that the clubs would have to endure as a result of this. And because they appeared on the same day and pleaded guilty immediately, we deemed it prudent to let them share the costs as opposed to settling each club with the full costs. That would not be equitable in our view. Over and above that, both clubs were also ordered by the DC to publish these sanctions in their respective websites within 7 days, reckoned from today, hoping that this will also send a message to their respective fans that this type of behavior only serves to punish the club and not the perpetrators themselves. We can all accept that this type of behavior is not good for the brand of the league, the brand of the respective clubs, the brand of football in general. It is observed that football is a product that is meant to be consumed in peace and in a safe and enjoyable environment. And this type of behavior does the exact opposite and must be condemned in the strongest possible terms. Unfortunately, as the rules currently read, the clubs who are the rule makers have agreed to a strict liability principle, which means it matters not how many of these ill-behaving fans and how many missiles are thrown into the pitch of play. One incident is enough to trigger the prosecution, and it may well result in clubs being fined exorbitant amounts. We do not believe that this is an answer to the problem. However, as a prosecution, unfortunately, up until the rules are amended, one is duty-bound to enforce them as they read. We trust that all of us will have a responsibility to make sure that we do not tarnish the brand of the league and also bring the league into disrepute, regardless of how upset people might be with decisions or the losses of their respective teams. There will be no further commentary on this matter, and this is the end of the release.